What's up, y'all? Benjamin back in here. Let me get this straight out real quick. Wanted to do a quick video about some things that I'm learning. And a lot of the learning I'm doing, excuse me, is because of my son. Hold on, it's pretty echoey in here. Hold on real quick. Let's try that. See if that helps. Sorry about that. All right, let's get busy. Learning some things interesting right now, and just thinking over a lot of observing my son and observing my role. Reading some really good books right now about fathering, because for the most part I'm doing this alone. Again, single dad. I don't want to be a single dad. I didn't want to be a single dad. I never thought that I would be a single dad. Yet here I am. And even so, I see my son less than half, as it sits right now anyway. I'll see my son for less than half of his upbringing. And these things just shouldn't be. They shouldn't be that way. Divorce is a wretched monster. I'm not sure why the majority of mothers are single, actually. That's actually true. And I don't know why they're signing up for it. Anyway, conversation for another time. I wanted to talk about my son's first bully. Now, he's told me a little bit about some kids at the school that have pushed him or whatever. And I have observed on the playground at his school some kids doing what kids do. Kids are mean, right? But nothing like, this was a couple weeks ago now. Nothing like what happened a couple weeks ago. We were at a birthday party, and it was at this trampoline park, I guess. I don't know. Indoor trampoline area. And it has all these really cool, fun trampolines, and then like a climbing area, ball pit, slides, fun kid stuff, right? And I was down below watching my kid. He goes up, and we've gone there a couple times now, and there's this one particular player he likes to be. He kind of congregates in that area, and that's his kind of go-to every time we go there. But I was watching for him, right? I wasn't in the ball pit or anything. I was down below, and it's like a 2-story climbing gym area, this part that he was in. And I look over, like, just in time to see my son. He's up on this like second tier. I just happened to catch it out of the corner of my eye, and then I saw the whole thing. And I saw this much bigger kid than him grab him and push him up against the netting of the thing. And he slapped my son across the face. I heard my son yell. He screamed. And there's like lots of other kids. There was adults. There's people running around, But I saw it, and I heard him yell. And my knee-jerk instinct, my reaction, and I got hot, man, real quick. And I could see he pushed him up against the netting. He slapped him across the face. And again, he's much bigger than my son. My son's pretty tiny. And I yelled up, "Son, you punch him in his mouth." And my head, I'm thinking, punch him in his fucking mouth, son. Now, look, I know what that sounds like. Oh, like I'm condoning abuse to a child. Like my child beating somebody else's up. Like I would get any joy out of that, right? Not at all. I'm not a jerk. I'm not mean to kids, okay? As I said it, that sounds kind of weird. But that's what I yelled up to him. "Son, punch him in his mouth." Because I was down below this thing, and I couldn't get up there. And I'm like trying to get past these kids and adults and stuff because I want to get in there and get, up there. And so as soon as I yelled at it, punch him in his mouth, like I'm trying to get up there and push through all these people. And I mean, it happened that fast, right? And I couldn't save him. I couldn't stop it. I was too far away. I couldn't get there in time to prevent any other further, using my son as a punching bag for this other kid. And my son starts yelling, like he's screaming, and you could tell he's in distress, right? And so I'm like trying to get through all this damn ball pit, whatever. And um, my son screaming was alarming to this other kid. This other kid took off and came down the stairs, and my son was right on his heels. My son was actually chasing this kid, right? And they came and they blew right past me. I stuck my arm out to try to grab my kid, but he was hot on this kid's tail, man. I tried to grab him, and he ran right under me, and he right under my arm, and was chasing this kid. So I turn around and run back to the other side of this ball, around this ball pit, and there's like a flight of stairs, and those kids were going so fast. By the time I got around the corner there, they were already at the top of that other staircase. And when I got up there and looked around, my son was standing there by himself. The other kid had disappeared into a crowd of other kids, and my son was bawling, like he was crying, and I could tell. And I was like, "Come here, son. Come here, buddy." And I picked him up. We sat down, and he's such a tiny little guy, and he sits right here. He sits on my lap all the time. And he's just, he's facing me, and he's got his little arms around me. We're hugging, man. I could have just bawled my eyes out. And we're hugging, and I'm patting him on his head and just trying to calm him down. He's very visibly upset. And I could tell this is something we learned very hard in life, and this was a very teachable moment. I didn't do anything wrong. Why did this happen? I didn't do anything to upset this kid. I didn't do anything to provoke him. I mean, it was all over his face. It was in his entire demeanor. Like, what just happened? How come this happened to me? I didn't do anything. Right? So I'm sitting there hugging on him, just patting on him, petting him. You're okay, son. You're okay. Get him calmed down. Get him calmed to cool down. He stopped crying. And I explained something to him. And I said, son, here's what we're going to do when we have a bully. That's a bully, son. People will hurt you for no reason. Here's what we're going to do with that, okay? If people touch you, if people hit you, and I've explained this to him very well. We've had this conversation a few times since. If you deserved it, that's one thing. If you deserved it. But if a bully who hits you, punches you, kicks you, pushes you for no reason, unprovoked, and you didn't deserve it, you're going to do two things. First thing, you're going to tell them, no thank you, please stop. Draw your line. Draw your boundary. No thank you, please stop. If they do it again, you punch them in their face until they cannot touch you anymore. And then you go tell your mom or your dad or a teacher. Does that make sense, son? And he says, yes, Dad. And we talked about it. And I'm doing repetition with him, right? Teaching him things. Teaching about just different things. And he has a mantra of things that we discuss that are issues to men. Bullying is one of them. Not men specifically, but in this situation, I mean, my son is a male. He's growing up as a male. He has time with his male father. And we're talking about male issues, right? Which is an honor to do so. So he knows, you tell somebody once, no thank you, I'd like you to stop that. And be kind about it. And if they do it again, you punch them in their mouth until they can't touch you anymore. And then you go tell on yourself of what you did and why you did it. And he understands. Look, I'm gonna walk away from all these things. Walk away from all these things. And I'm getting into a lesson here, right? A quick lesson. I'll give you one example. I have a couple, but I can give you one for the sake of time. I remember I have a very long fuse. Too long actually. I have let I often let people push me way too far and then go further and further and further until there's a point where I can't take it anymore and I react in what seems to be an aggressive manner. But the truth is I let people, I've done this in the past at least, let people push me too far. And then there's a point where the dog has to get in the fight. I'll give you an example of this. A childhood bully of mine, I don't know, we'll call his name Tim. I'd see him around town. Bigger than me, of course. I'm a skinny beaner. I was a skinny beaner then, I'm a skinny beaner now. But this kid would always mess with me. Not always, but he would mess with me. And one time we're at the public pool. And these are the things you remember, right? I've also had my ass kicked, okay? But this is the time where I won. We're at the public pool, and this kid had my hand in a bit of a wrist lock, and he kept pushing me underneath the water, and like he'd hold me under, and then I'd come up. It was my left hand, that's right, and put me under, and then he'd pull me up, and I'd get a breath, and then put me under, pull me up, and this. I remember the moment so well because there was a point where it's like I can't breathe, right? And so in that struggle to be safe any longer, I was so angry that on one occasion he brought me out of the water. When I came up out of the water, I tagged him right in his eye. It would have been his left eye. I just tagged him right in his eye one time, as hard as I could. I punched that kid so hard. Immediately he jumps out of the pool, and like immediately his face swelled up. His face was huge, big, huge knot, big, huge bruise, full of blood. Those hematomas, and that was the last I saw him. I don't think I ever saw him around town after that anymore. Years later, I'm working in corrections, watching inmates, right? And this guy comes in. And I'm like, man, this kid is familiar. I say this kid. I mean, I was a younger man then. I was in my early 20s when I was doing corrections. But this guy comes in, and we're kind of looking at each other, and he's like, I know you. And I was like, oh, I know you too. And we're adults at this point. Like when that thing happened, we were teenagers, right? We're young adults at this point. And he's an inmate, incarcerated, and I'm watching inmates. That's what most people do as work in my town that I'm from. And he was like, I could still kick your ass, something like that. I would still kick your ass, or I would still fuck you up. I mean, that was his go-to. And it's like, that was so long ago, and we're so past that, and we're adults now. And I was like, I know what you're talking about, man. And I was like, look, I don't doubt that. I don't doubt that at all. But you're where you're at, and I'm where I'm at. I'm not in here with you, right? And in some kind of way, I won. Had I had to square off with the guy for some reason, there's a high probability that the guy could kick my ass. So what? And it's those times of bullying where you can let people push you and push you and push you, and then you break, and then you have to defend yourself, right? And this isn't just for bullies. This is for so many things, so many situations. Workplace, horrible bosses. Oh God, we all know this, right? Not advocating for yourself, not sticking up for yourself, and people really push you out to the edge, to your fringes, and then it's time, and you have to cut those people loose or fight back, so to speak. So let's talk about this. The teaching of, and I may have done a video on this once, I don't remember. Turning the other cheek. Jesus talks about this, right? Something that's important to keep in mind and in consideration is that most of the world operates on an honor-based mindset, an honor-based culture, right? Here in the West, as Westerners, we're an individualistic society. We don't think that way. We work in a shame-based society. So, if we are misbehaving, if we are not following cultural norms and the cultural cues, meta rules, we are shamed for things that we do wrong or the things that we don't get right, right? But much of the world actually isn't this way. Much of the world is an honor-based culture, honor-based society. And so honor-based is, and this is fascinating, you read it through scripture all the time, it's better to have a good name than to have many riches. It's better to have a good name than A, B, and C, right? And so in honor-based culture, it's like you're trying to bring honor to your own name, your house, your meaning like your house, your family, your extended family, and your ancestors, right? You're trying to build a good name so that the people that are coupled with you have a great name as well, and they have honor as well because of your name. And also your ancestors can be proud of you, right? Having lived overseas, especially in a place like Japan, honor-based culture, right? So the thing with bullies, and I'm not just talking physical bullies, I'm talking in whatever avenue this you find yourself in, and somebody's bullying you, a coworker, a supervisor, a boss. Man, I've got some run-ins with some horrible supervisors where I let them push me too far, and then it's like, okay, this is enough, right? And sometimes it ended up good. One time it ended up bad for me. When Jesus says, turn the other cheek, turn the other cheek. He says, if somebody takes your cheek and they give it, turn the other one to them as well. And let me give you a scenario. Let's say you're in a marketplace, in an honor-based society, honor-based culture. And you owe somebody something, some money or some time, whatever the case might be. Maybe you owe somebody, or you've wronged or slightly harmed somebody's business or name, reputation. You did something, and you give them their cheek, and they take it. You may have earned that. You may have earned that. Maybe not for no reason. Maybe you earned it. You earned a strike on the cheek. And they took the hit, or they gave you the hit, and that squares up the wrongdoing. If you give them the other one, and they take the situation, and they give you another blow, that's a mark on them. That's a disgrace on their honorable name. Because what that's showing in the situation, and maybe perhaps other people that are observing this situation, is look how out of control this person is. They have no control over themselves. They took the one hit, they took the one strike, and maybe that was owned. Maybe that was due you. But if they do it again, you're not being belittled or harmed by the situation. The black mark is on them for being out of control and allowing their anger and emotions and lack of self-control control them, right? So in a way, the person who's being struck owns the situation if they take that other strike, right? Because it's like, look how out of control you are. You're not a fair player. This is a mark on your reputation, not mine, right? And in an honor-based culture, an honor-based society, that name is everything, right? And so, for my little boy, and a lesson for myself, and perhaps it can be useful for you as well, is in what ways and situations are you, maybe the strike is owe you, maybe it's due to you, perhaps. But if you turn the other cheek to the situation, and that other person, like with my kid, if that bully takes it, that's a mark on them. Now, we don't live in an honor-based culture or society, so it's not, we don't have those honorable family names or personal names. But here's where this is important. Does that make sense? Okay, so here's where this is important. I'm trying to keep these videos short. I'm already at 20 minutes. Here's where this is important, though. And this applies to, again, I talk a lot about divorce and father's rights and things like this. And I'm having so many amazing conversations with so many people about this stuff. It's wonderful, actually. But boy, this applies to divorce, and this really applies to like parenting, father's rights and stuff in divorce, but I won't get into that. In our culture, not an honor-based culture, we're different. We're shame-based. And perhaps, as a Westerner, we approach life with this type of situation, this mentality. You get hit by a bully for real, physically for real, or by life, by again, I use the example of horrible bosses, these types of things. There comes a time where you have to fight back. There comes a time where you have to fight back. Now, if I tell my son, turn the other cheek, buddy, and I teach him the right logic behind it, instead of just being a pacifist wimp beta male and allowing people to walk all over you, because I've done that a lot of my lifetime, thanks to wrong teaching in Christianity, where you just become a punching bag. You're just constantly turning cheeks to people, to things, to situations, and you're just getting your ass kicked, right? This is wrong. This is wrong. It doesn't empower or embolden anybody, let alone my son. There's a point where you have to advocate for yourself, and you have to do better. And in advocating for yourself, it might mean punching somebody else in the mouth, right? You're standing up for yourself. You're not going to be a punching bag. But this applies to many other things, mostly other things, really less and less in life. It's not about fighting or engaging in combat. It's a predominantly peaceful society, for all things considered. These apply to other things. Son, you can't let people, organizations, situations bully you, push you around, and become a punching bag. It serves nobody. It serves nobody. And here's the thing. If you fight back, so to speak, you are building a better name for yourself. Does anybody want to do business with a beta male chump who won't stick to his guns, won't fight for what's his, and won't draw the lines in the sand? Nobody wants to do business with you. Nobody wants to date you. Nobody wants to marry you. Nobody wants to be in relation with people like that. Nobody. People want to, for men, people want to be in relationship, whether it's business, love, otherwise, with men who execute. With men who execute. Does that make sense? And so if my poor little boy is there and he's just getting thrashed against the ropes by this kid and does nothing, and I teach him that's what he's supposed to do, that will harm him more than it does good his entire life. He needs to know there's a time to fight back, and there's a time to engage, even though you're afraid, and overcome the situation in all areas. Being a punching bag serves nobody, son, especially yourself. Grow the backbone, stand up tall, and beat the shit out of things that do not serve you. How's that for a life lesson for my boy? Nobody wants to do business with you. Nobody wants to marry you. Nobody wants to follow you. You're not leading. You're living beneath yourself when you do that. And it's taken me years to learn this thing. I'm not naturally that bent, right? And I have to say, in some really messed up kind of way, divorce taught me that. Divorce taught me that. More than anything. I'm not a pacifist. I've always been willing to stick up for myself and fight. even physically if that's what it means. Um, but I definitely have a way too long of a girth, a width, a bandwidth for allowing people to push me, and then I snap out of it and fight back, and it comes across as like, well, why are you such a dick, you know? And that's something that I'm working on currently. But I think one of the great roles of fatherhood is that you can teach children to self-regulate and to know, okay, this is enough. No more bullying. You're done. And then countering, right? And of course, I'm using my son as an example for physical altercation with bullies. But again, this applies with so many things. And we need to be some humble servants as men. Yes, we need to be kind, caring, compassionate. These great attributes, protective, provider that men have, that God has given them. But there's also a time to fight back, draw the lines, and say enough. And in doing so, you're actually building an honorable name for yourself, so that you can raise the bar of manhood, protect, provide, have follow through, have execution. That's what society needs now. No more punching bags. It's time to be assertive and execute. I don't know. What do you think? But that's where my stance is.